Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Khalisah Harris-Shahid, founder of the Islamic Library Association. My work focuses on equitable and accurate Muslim representation in library and literary spaces. In this series, I'm in conversation with authors, educators, and professionals whose work centers Muslim women navigating divorce, those who have gone through it, or those supporting someone through it, and the importance of having resources that reflect those realities. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Iman Saymeh, an educator and mental health professional whose work spans education, counseling, interfaith engagement, and community care. With a background in instructional leadership, clinical social work, higher education, and Islamic studies, Dr. Iman brings a deeply informed perspective on emotional support, representation, and the importance of culturally responsive resources for Muslim communities. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Iman. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am well. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon each and every one of you, for you, Doctor, and for your followers and listeners. And may our time together be beneficial to everyone who would come across this podcast, inshallah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, you're here, so let's just go on ahead and jump right into it.
Sure.
Your work sits at the intersection of mental health, faith, and care. What has shaped the way that you think about emotional support, not just as an intervention, but as a form of access?
Beautiful question to start our interaction through. So, my understanding of emotional support as a form of access has been shaped by both my professional experiences in higher education and mental health, as well as my own personal observations of how many individuals struggle silently while appearing functioning and on the surface, everything is okay. Over time, I began to recognize that emotional support is not simply about responding to crisis. It is often the very thing that allows people to remain connected to opportunity, learning, relationships, and sense of self. So, working with students from diverse cultural, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds, along with their families, showed me that many individuals do not lack intelligence or ambition or potential. What they really often lack is safe access to spaces where they feel emotionally seen, heard, and supported without judgment. In many communities, particularly among students navigating family expectations or faith traditions, migration experiences, or mental health stigma, emotional distress is frequently internalized and hidden. As a result, students may disengage academically, internalize it, and they might also disengage socially or spiritually long before anyone recognizes they are struggling. So really my work is surrounded around spotting those isolations before they happen and provide services and safe space for people to be heard.
Mm. Within your work, what happens when Muslim women are expected to navigate major life ruptures like divorce without that support or culturally relevant resources to help them make sense of what they're experiencing so that they don't end up in that isolated place?
So in my work, and before I say in my work, as a Muslim woman, I am a single mom. And it's very hard within our communities to really take on that label without the stigma that the society have wrapped around it.
Mm.
And I don't say it in a way that I promote divorce. I say it in a way people need to own the journey that they're on.
Mm.
And they need to own it wholeheartedly without any shame or any kind of negativity around it. That's what Allah intended for them at this time in their life, and that's the journey that they're on. And perhaps something different will come their way, but whatever in the present moment is true for them, to truly embrace it. So, in my work as a mental health counselor, I have observed that when Muslim women are expected to navigate major life ruptures, such as divorce without adequate language and support or culturally relevant resources, many experience profound isolation and emotional confusion and internalized shame. And the difficulty is often not only that rupture itself, but the silence surrounding it. So for many women, divorce is experienced with emotional and relational and spiritual level. So it's not only I'm divorced. No, it's how I see myself emotionally and religiously and culturally and economically and society. My whole being shifts. And without space that allow for honesty and for experiences to be processed, uh, that rupture ends up being a hindering to that person's growth and spiritual alignment, and for their sound mental health and their ability to move forward. And especially if they are raising kids, that takes a toll on their ability to really navigate parenthood in a sound way.
Hmm. From your perspective, what are the emotional consequences when Muslim women cannot find themselves reflected in the resources meant to support them?
So, from my perspective, when Muslim women cannot find themselves reflected in these resources intended to support them, the emotional consequences can deeply disorient them. It could really deeply alienate them.
Mm,
Many begin to feel unseen, not only in their struggles, but also in the complexity of who they are
mm,
and the new title that they have created for themselves. The absence of culturally and spiritually relevant representation can communicate, even unintentionally, that their experiences are either not, it's too much for us to handle, or it could be misunderstood, or it could be uncomfortable to be attended to. So for some women, this creates a tension between their emotional realities and their frameworks available for them to help them, to support them, to navigate this. And often people end up retreating and, unfortunately, suffering in silence. So
mm.
resources are very important.
So how can the care, the language, and the representation all work together in helping someone move through these situations with more clarity and less isolation?
So care, language, and representation work together as interconnectedness. So they're not separate, they're together. And the idea is for them to ground the person and to provide help for that individual by making meaning of the painful experiences rather than becoming consumed by their isolation. When someone moves through rupture, such as divorce, loss, displacement, betrayal, or identity transition, the experience is often not only emotional pain, but also deeply disorienting. People are trying their hardest to understand what happened, right? It's almost like one day you are in this reality, the next day you're in this reality. Although the mind understand we're moving from I'm married to divorce, it takes a while for the emotions and for the body to catch up. And whether their experience can be held with dignity and understanding. So care creates emotional safety, which is very important for that person to start healing. It offers the sense of that person does not have to carry their experience alone or perform strength in order to deserve support. So genuine care communicate presence, attentiveness, and humanity, which can reduce the shame and fear that could accompany the vulnerability in the moment. So sometimes healing begins simply because someone feels emotionally received rather than judged or dismissed.
Mm,
So to look at the experience and the rupture from all aspect of proper care, wholesome care, is really important for that person to feel that, okay, this is the new journey that I'm going to be going through. even though the journey is not fully clear to them, even if this new unknown to them is filled with fear and let's say darkness,
Mhm.
but they will take that step with confidence. They will take that step knowing that they're supported, and it's very important to do so.
Mm. You've talked a lot about feeling supported and the need for that. And much of this series asks what it means to be visible, especially in the public. You know, because otherwise you'd be like you're saying, you'd be isolated.
Uh-huh.
And within your work, what happens when Muslim women are only visible through crisis, but not through that care or complexity that you've mentioned?
So in my work, I have found that when Muslim women are only made visible through crisis, their humanity often becomes flattened into reaction rather than understood through the fullness of everything that they're going through and their lived experiences. So visibility that occurs only in moments of pain, it or let's say oppression or public scrutiny can unintentionally reduce women to symbols of suffering instead of recognizing them as complex individuals with emotional depth,
Mm,
resilience, joy, contradictions, and even evolving identities. So when care, complexity, and support are absent from the visibility, many women begin to feel seen only when something that has gone wrong is happening in their lives. So their struggles may become publicly exposed that way, while their healing interior lives, ambitions, emotional labor, and everyday humanity remains overlooked. This can create a profound sense of emotional invisibility. Even while being visible socially or culturally. We often see women when they have gone through divorce, they step into this role where they have to start to overdo because they want to be seen differently. They don't want the stigma, they don't want the drama, they don't want the gossip. So they burden themselves and they overdo it when they really just need to step back, take a breather and try to understand who they are in their new reality. So having that proper connectedness and proper care and proper resources around them will allow them to rest and so they can take this new identity full on.
mm. When it comes to resource rest,
Uh-huh.
what role can libraries play in making those resources easier to be found, to be able to be places that Muslim ladies in particular learn to trust and know that it has access to things that they need?
So libraries are a very powerful place to really educate people, especially those who are suffering in silence. If I'm going through something and I don't want to talk about it to anyone, or I don't trust to go to a therapist, or I don't trust to open up to a friend or family members, or I've been isolating from the community for a long time, I don't have anybody to talk to. So picking up a book and really immersing myself in its content that allows me to connect with my inner truth,
Mhm,
that I am just bubbling myself in it, will make a huge difference in me treading into this new reality in an informed way. So libraries can play a deeply important role in making support more accessible because they are one of the few public spaces centered around knowledge, discovery, and community access rather than judgment and gatekeeping. So, for many Muslim women, navigating difficult life experiences with limited language can really make them feel isolated, as we keep talking about isolation.
mhm,
One important role libraries can play is expanding representation within the resources they provide and they carry. When shelves, programming, digital archives, and community events include materials created by or reflective of Muslim women's lived experiences, it communicates that these stories, questions, and emotional realities belongs within public knowledge spaces. Representation helps individuals recognize that their experiences are neither isolated nor unworthy of discussion. And that equality that makes them feel seen and important and valued. Many Muslim women hesitate to engage with support systems, as I said earlier, when they fear misunderstanding and stereotyping or cultural insensitivity. So libraries can help build trust by intentionally collaborating with culturally informed educators, mental health professionals, faith leaders, scholars, and community organizers who understand that nuances of that experiences. Community-centered programming that reflects emotional complexity rather than simplistic narratives that can make the public support feel more humane and relevant. So I think the role of libraries is huge in educating women in what they're going through and making them feel seen by their representation.
Yes, I agree 100%. You discussed how libraries can be part of that support system that a Muslim woman could be seeking or needing. When that support system is working well,
Mhm.
what should Muslim women be able to find emotionally, culturally, and even practically within library and literary?
So when support systems are working well, Muslim women should be able to find spaces within libraries and literally communities that offer not only information, but recognition, emotional safety, and meaningful belonging. These spaces should allow women to encounter themselves with dignity and complexity rather than feeling reduced to stereotypes, assumptions, or moments of crisis. Emotionally, women should be able to find language for experiences that are often difficult to articulate publicly, especially if that woman is going through divorce and she's the first one in her family to have gone through this. She really does not have the support system to navigate this new reality. They should encounter stories and scholarship and conversations that validate grief, transition, joy, identity, conflict, healing, spiritually balanced outlook, ambition, and even the loneliness that they could feel. It's very hard to navigate life going from I have a partner to I'm by myself, or I have a partner and we are supporting our kids together. Now I'm a single mom or I'm a single dad. So that builds resiliency without forcing those experiences into overly simplified narratives. So healthy support system makes room for emotional nuance and they allow women to feel less isolated in what they are really carrying or feeling maybe less pressure to navigate difficult realities silently. You know, we keep coming back. I think the theme of this interaction is isolation. And that has been really the reality of most of the women I've worked with through my counseling services is how isolating they feel, even within their communities, because these are conversations that are not navigated with resources that are properly dedicated for this. And usually they are given spiritual bypassing advice or any kind of cultural stances on divorce, and that's not really supportive. And it's really hard to navigate something hard on your own overnight. And as I said, especially if you have kids and you're navigating that role as well. So I really hope to see more resources provided for Muslim women in all libraries and to have that representation be something that is normalized.
Dr. Iman, your responses, your experiences, your perspectives have are just, they're phenomenal. And
Alhamdulillah.
your insight regarding uh, decreasing isolation and enhancing support for these types of situations, specifically for Muslim women within literary library spaces, so important. And we're so deeply thankful for your input and insight today.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to thank you for your time, and to our audience, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Please continue supporting the work of Muslim educators, counselors, authors, and advocates whose work helps expand access, representation, and understanding within our community and beyond. Thank you so much again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you
Wa
so
alaikum
much.
salam. Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.